All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. I'm so excited to dive into this week's interview. I have Jillian Carrillo with me, and we are going to be talking about, yes, hi. We're going to be talking about a positive birth experience. So I'm Christina Deering. I'm a pregnancy and postpartum life coach, and my goal is truly to support women through their pregnancy, labor and delivery, and fourth trimester. And so what we're doing now is we're focusing on labor and delivery, which I'm really excited about. So Jill's going to be sharing her own experience, her own positive birth experience. Our goal truly for today is that you'll find even just one piece of information that you can pull into your own labor and delivery experience. So we're super excited to dive into this. Jill had an amazingly calm experience times two. She has two beautiful boys. And so yeah, so let's dive into this. So Jill, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name, like you said, is Jill Carrillo. My husband and I are both elementary school teachers in Louisville, Texas. We have, like Christina said, two little boys. Kason just turned 3, and Crew just turned 1. So he's our beautiful little pandemic baby. Didn't know we were signing up for that, but we survived it. And then in our spare time, we just like to play with our boys. We're enjoying summer right now, playing with friends. We are lucky to have a tribe of people who have kiddos the same age, so we like getting together with them. And then, of course, like any other teacher, my husband and I both have our own small businesses that we're working in our spare time as well. So get to enjoy all that kind of fun.
Yes, yes. And she's rocking this beautiful pink hair, which she's like, it's summer and I'm diving in.
Yep, it's now or never. So here we are.
Good. We were just diving in, talking a little bit about Jill's first labor and delivery experience and what made it such a positive experience. So I'm excited to dive in.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, so you want me to just go for it?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, so like we said, my first Kason was born in 2018 in Flower Mound, and really, I guess where this conversation even started between Christina and I was that Christina just even a few weeks ago posted on her Instagram about trying to create her own positive birth experience. And Christina, I remember you saying in that post that you were so scared leading up to your first delivery because nobody ever talks about positive experiences. And when I saw that in your post, just had all these light bulbs go off, because I have felt like for 3 years now that I had a positive experience, but there's almost like this, not a stigma about talking about a positive birth experience, but that it's just not ever spoken of. It's not uncommon to find yourself at a lunch table with women talking about, oh, I had this horrible experience. Oh, well, no, I had this horrible experience. No, this terrible thing happened to me. So I would just kind of wanting to be part of the conversation to throw this out there. But generally, I look back at the birth of Kason, even the labor and delivery, as such a positive experience. And so all that to say, it doesn't mean there weren't bumps in the road. It wasn't a perfect delivery. I pushed for 2 hours, so it was a long time. And then he had some complications upon delivery, but it was overall a positive experience. And leading up to that, there were a couple things that I was doing just to calm my own mind, but I didn't at the time realizing what greatness I was setting myself up for. So then that's where Christina and our conversation kind of went from there about the possibility of other women getting to have a positive birth experience.
Yes. Yeah. And you bring up such a good point too about how it's even just our culture talks a lot about here's the drama, let's one up each other. And it's I was noticing through my own research, truly women there are so many more women that have had a really positive birth experience, and they felt bad talking about it. And it's
exactly.
You wouldn't share that, because I went into it thinking, oh God, it's what if this is a moment, knocked up, or she's screaming, it's
yeah.
I don't want that birth, So I did a lot of research myself. And through that research, I realized there are so many positive birth experiences out there. And so I'm curious, what did you do that kind of calmed you leading up to that first birth? Were there any like mindset tricks, or what did you do, or even like during it to kind of keep yourself calm and positive?
So I think there's a couple of things, and what I think is most important is that any woman who's leading up to her own delivery like takes time to truly think about what they need, because it's going to be different for everybody. But for me, it was a couple of things. One, for some women, knowledge is power. For me, I didn't need, like, I was gonna birth a baby no matter what I knew, right? It was gonna happen. So me like Googling the answer to every question or every rumor I'd heard or myth, you know, that was not helpful to me, because then I would just dig myself into a scary hole. So I didn't, if I had a question about what to expect, I asked I delivered with a midwife. So I asked my midwife. So that I think is the first thing, is finding someone that you really trust. Even if you're midway through your pregnancy, you're not stuck with that doctor or that midwife. So I had found somebody that I absolutely trusted with my health, with my baby's health, with my labor and delivery. So when I had questions, I went to her. I did not Google it. And honestly, I didn't ask friends who had babies before, because you could get all kinds of different answers. So that was the first thing. I didn't go Google crazy. The second thing was I spent a lot of time thinking about what I need in stressful moments. So for me, my love language is words of affirmation. So I thought long and hard about what I would need from like my labor coach, my husband, during labor. And once I kind of had my own thoughts together, he and I sat down and I was like, when I'm feeling this way, I need you to respond this way. So he was really good. I told him, like, I'm just going to need encouragement. I need him to remind me you're doing a great job. And then most importantly, I just needed him to remind me during labor, like, I can do this, because I had gotten myself to a place where I knew that I could do it. And so I needed to know that other people in the room believed that too, like the people delivering my baby, my husband. Yeah. And so he was really good for me, like holding my hand, looking, like he would look me straight in my eye and say, you're doing awesome. You can do this. You've got this. We're almost there. And then also for me, I need to know, this is true in like all things, I need to know where the finish line is. So I would ask like, okay, how much longer do we think this is going to be? That was helpful for me, but for some women it might not be. So they gave me realistic pictures. Okay, you got more pushing ahead of you. I'm like, okay, let's do this. And there was my husband, my labor coach right there. So those were two things that I think really helped me, having a really clear picture of what I needed from others in that situation, and then having a medical professional that I really trusted.
Yes. Yeah, those are huge. Those are huge. One of my favorite affirmations was, my birth partner is by my side and on my side.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just remembering like we're in this together, like we're bringing our child into this world together. So, and to your point, talking to him ahead of time and letting him know, like, here's what I need in the room. Because when you're in the moment, it's much harder to actually like say, like, here's what I need. Yeah. So it's the idea of like, hey, ahead of time, like, here's what this is what will calm me down. So if you can give me this, that's going to help me the most. Because sometimes they go into it totally clueless. They're like, I've never done this before.
And helpless.
Yeah.
So much that they can do.
Exactly. So when I find this with men for almost all things, when they have a purpose too, they feel like good about being in the room. Like, they're like, totally. I can take that and run with it. So giving them a purpose, so that way they're not like, what the hell am I doing here?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it was good. It made it a better experience for both of us too.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So bonding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the other thing, and I know all women look forward to something different, but something about the mystery, like you never really know what your baby's going to look like until they get here, right? No matter how good of the sonograms you got. Yeah. So that was my target. Like, I can't wait to see what he looks like, who he looks like. So I also just that was my light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I can't wait to see what he looks like. Yes. And just keeping that picture in my head helped a lot too. Like, you're almost there. You're about to see him. You're going to see his sweet little face.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like, oh my God, the end of the road here is that I get to literally hold my baby in my arms.
Yeah.
Like, hello, it's so worth it, you know?
Yeah, it's totally worth it. It's hands down the best moment of my life. Was the best moment of my life when I got to hold my baby for the first time, times two.
Yes,
So there's
I've
nothing
heard
like
that.
it in the world.
I've heard that from so many people, and that was my experience too, was like, wow, you were real. Like I thought I
Yeah,
was like gaining weight.
yeah,
You're a
right.
real human.
And
Yeah.
something very surreal. I've said this all 3 years too. Like you're counting down. Like a pregnant woman could tell you how many weeks and days they have left. It's a
Yeah.
major countdown. So to get to the end of the countdown is so surreal. And then you have this sweet little face in front of you that is the end of the countdown. So
Yeah.
crazy.
And you're like, oh my gosh, you're a real human.
You're a real human. You're a whole human.
Exactly.
And I did that.
Right? Like I created your ears and your
Uh-huh.
toenails and all the things. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
That's
amazing.
that's the other thing though, both times that I feel like has made it a positive experience for me. Both times I really went I wanted to feel like I on the other side, I didn't want to feel like I had survived something traumatic. I wanted to feel like I had conquered something. And honestly, like kind of selfishly, after having two babies, it makes me feel like a badass.
Not
Like
selfish at all. That is self-love.
I'm like, I did that
Yes.
twice.
Yep. 100%. You
So that
empowered
was
yourself
my
to do it.
mindset.
Yes. You are such
I
a
didn't want
badass.
to feel like I had survived something. And for some women it does feel that way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but that wasn't the feeling I wanted to have at the end. I wanted to feel like a badass, and sure enough I did.
Mm-hmm.
Still do.
Right? It's a mindset though. You know, you could take the exact same experience and give it to two different women and they could say like that was whatever it was, that was like a traumatic experience, or they could say, wow, I feel like a warrior, a badass. I just finished a 10K or whatever it is.
Right.
That was awesome. I can't believe I just did that. Like, of course I did that. Like, I am amazing, you know, and just reminding yourself, like, I am so strong. My body was made to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like with every surge or contraction, I call them surges because that felt better. With each surge, I'm getting closer to meeting my baby.
Totally.
So like knowing there's like a purpose for them, like they're not just here to give us pain. Like each time I have that, I'm getting closer to meeting my baby so I can relax into them.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah. So tell me, did you do anything different with your second when it came to the mindset or when it came to like having that positive birth experience? Did anything shift?
Honestly, not so much. It was still like those same big ideas. I actually had a different midwife the second time. I found somebody who I connected with even more. And she was a hero to me. She was such an advocate for me in labor and delivery. And so that was different, but for the even better. And then again, after the first time I did it, I was like, there's something comforting about knowing I already know what to expect. I know I can do this, so I'm just going to go do it again. And that's, again, not to say that it wasn't a different experience. Like every birth is different. So I was thrown some curveballs, but I knew that I could overcome it. So, and then again, like you said before we get into the, to labor and delivery, my husband and I sat down again. And I reminded him that what he did for me the first time was perfect and awesome, and I couldn't have done it without him, and reminded him exactly what I needed him to do again for the second time. So it was another really good experience.
Yeah. Filling that room with people you trust too. Like that's such a big takeaway of like just like level setting with everyone before you get in the room. And also like making sure like, do I trust my midwife? Do I trust my OB? Do I feel like they have my best interest in mind?
Yeah.
Kind of thing too, where it's like, and yeah, just level setting with them too. Like, hey, I just want to make sure this is what's going to happen in the room, or when stuff happens, like this is really what calms me down, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And that felt even more important to me the second time because I did have a little bit more fear going into my second delivery because it was May 2020 and I had never had a baby in a pandemic before. And so there were a lot of elements like in the hospital that felt very different and scary. And so to have those conversations beforehand and to know, like I would call the hospital wasn't having classes. So I would just call them with my questions and be, hey, how are we going to address this? What are we going to do for that? That helped a lot too. Once again, just finding reliable answers to the questions that I had. I think is really important, that women stand up for themselves and ask those questions to all the people, because they're used to the questions and they want to answer and they want to help. So
Yeah, absolutely. Finding someone who wants to answer those questions too.
yeah.
Because sometimes like with my OB, I realized like kind of midway through, and this is something that I'm thinking about on the other side, is I felt like he was like, go, go, go. Like, he was like, let's go. Like, and granted he had a lot on his schedule, but like
Sure.
at the same time, I felt a little weird about like, am I inconveniencing him by asking these questions? And I'm like, fuck that. Like, this is my body, my baby, my, like I get to ask questions that make me feel more comfortable in the experience. So truly being like an advocate for your body, your baby, is huge. Like just allowing yourself the space and showing up to those meetings, writing down those questions ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, mom brain is like a thing, pregnancy brain is a thing. I'd show up to those, like the check-ins, and I'd be like, I have 10 questions.
Yep.
He'd walk in the room and he'd be like, so what questions do you have? And I'm like, literally none. Have a great day.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. I constantly had a note on my phone that was questions for so-and-so, questions for so-and-so. And I just kept a running list. And if it was answered, I delete it and go to the next one.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to keep that. And then it's good too to keep that running list too on your phone. That's a good point, because then you're actually able to like add it as you're thinking of things, and you don't have to like day of be like, oh shoot, what was I thinking of the day? Like just add it as you're going.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, is there anything that you wish you had done during labor and delivery, kind of on the back end, that maybe would have supported your experience, that you've heard other people do, or just as you were thinking about like kind of back to where you were before?
Yeah.
Is there anything you wish you had done?
That's a really good question. And I think the answer is probably yes, but I can't name any of them for you. I think this sounds really silly, but part of the reason why is I just continue to look back at those two memories really fondly. And so I don't know that there's anything I would have done differently. Well, the first time I could say, the first time I maybe wish I had studied up a little bit more on like signs of active labor, because I got myself to the hospital just in the nick of time to have a baby. That might have been something I would not have liked to relive. But luckily the second time I knew exactly what I was getting into.
Right. Yeah.
But honestly, I mean, just those few things that I did the first time worked so well for me that I actively made sure that those things happened for me the second time.
Yeah. That's so great. You know what I love is so much of what you're describing. So when we go into the labor and delivery room, there's two different ways we can take it, and our bodies need oxytocin to open up and deliver a baby. Mm-hmm. And in order to bring oxytocin into our bodies, we have to feel really calm and really happy and like surrounded by love. So the fact that you were like, here's my love language, this is what I need in that space, that's the oxytocin your body was needing to really open up and deliver your baby. And on the opposite end of that spectrum is adrenaline, and that literally shuts our bodies down. That's why sometimes why our bodies can't actually progress in the moment, is because we're so fear-based. And so that's the idea of really changing the narrative of like, when you truly go in with that positive mindset of like, I'm a badass, I can do this, I can conquer this, I love the people in the room, they can support me through this. Your body is responding in that way. Like your body is beginning to open up. Your body is able to more easily deliver your baby. And that is why it's so important to keep your mindset in the right space, go into it, because your body truly responds. It's the coolest thing.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel still like I wasn't even like you have done so much research, you know so much. I still don't know any of these things. And I think that's kind of the point too, is like, you don't have to be a scientist, a doctor, an OBGYN to be able to prepare yourself for the situation. You just have to take the time to reflect on what works for you, what's going to work best for your own experience. So that's what I did.
Yeah. It's like you intuitively knew like, hey, I'm going to keep my mindset in the right place. And your body just followed. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like too, what we were saying before is like, there's this culture around talking about pregnancy and labor and delivery, and it's all really negative. And I started to experience that really early on in my first pregnancy. I remember so vividly. I can remember specific conversations of, someone saying, hey, how are you feeling today, Jill? And I'd answer honestly, oh, I'm kind of nauseous, I'm kind of tired. And it would be not as tired as you're gonna be.
Yeah.
Not as sick as you're gonna be. And I like in the few first weeks of my pregnancy, I was like, well, this is yucky. I don't want to feel this yucky cloud over me for 9 more months, you know? So I just kind of at that time made the active decision to not participate in that. It wasn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
Or anxiety.
Right. Tune it out. Like, that's so true. You got to be able to filter out, like, because some people are just kind of talking and it's like, you know, like that's your experience. That's not mine. So it's like, yeah, for them to kind of like almost project that onto you and be like, you're going to feel this way later, is definitely something they're working through and has nothing to do with you. So that's a good thing you're able to kind of push it out of your line of sight. Yeah.
And I've kind of found too, I really think that it's like when people say things like that, I really think it's like women trying to connect with other women, you know, like I think it's them like, oh man, like really saying like, I was that tired too, but then I got even more tired, you know, like I really think it's coming from that place of wanting to connect. Yeah. But sometimes on the receiving end, it's a little off-putting.
Totally. Yeah. That's a good point too. So like when you're sharing this stuff with other women, be mindful of what they're experiencing on their side too. Like, so filling their cup up in a way that's very positive too, can go a really long way, because sometimes it's harder to filter that stuff out depending on kind of your level of like filter, you know? So it's the idea of being like, all right, I really want to fill this person up with like so much love and gratitude because they are going through such a transformative time in their lives that it's like, why wouldn't you, you know? But to your point, it's like a way of bonding. But like, I believe I feel more bonded when someone's giving me positive encouragement. I know. You know, instead of being like, good luck out there.
Yeah, it's horrible, but good luck with it. You can do it.
Exactly. Sleep now because you'll never sleep again. I'm like,
exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the other side, we do sleep again. So that's
you do. You do. You definitely do.
Yeah. I love it. So I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but what has you kind of wanting to share your positive birth experience now?
Like we kind of mentioned earlier, I've been, none of these thoughts have come to me consciously until the last couple of weeks when you and I got to connect again, Christina. Right. You had that Instagram post about how terrified you were and how you were wanting to change that positive experience and how there aren't a lot of positive stories out there. And in reading that post, I remember reading through, it was late one night when I was finally getting to bed and I read it, and then I kind of thought about it for a second. I was like, I need to read that again. I read it again. And I commented on there like, light bulbs going off. Like, it's so true. Nobody talks about their positive experience. So I'm really, honestly, this sounds super cheesy, but I'm super grateful for you for that post and like all those thoughts that you've ignited in me, because it's really it makes me want to go out and support other women and have a positive birth experience. And then it's also kind of, in a weird way, lightened my load. Like, it's okay to talk about your positive birth experience. And so, I told you before I started having these conversations, as soon as you invited me to do this interview, I'm like, I have this really cool opportunity coming up. And I don't know, I think I just love your mission, and I am on board with you. There's so many positive things to say about pregnancy, labor, and delivery, and you don't often hear them. So I'm honored to be able to be just one voice, at least, that gets to share that positive experience, because there's some good stuff to share, and it's more than just the beautiful baby at the end.
It's so true. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful too that you were just like honest about, as you were reading through, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 like, hold on. Like, this was really supportive for me. And it's like, it's true in all areas of our life, right? Like, a lot of people, like, when we start focusing on like, dang, that really was such a positive experience, I want to share that more instead of dimming. Like, as women, we have a tendency to dim our own light. So it's that idea of like actually letting ourselves shine. Like, this is amazing. I am so proud of myself for doing that. And by saying that, other women are living vicariously through you. They're able to see the light at the other side of the tunnel, where they're like, I can get through this. I really, truly can. And it's very empowering to hear women talk about how the positive parts of the whole experience. It really is empowering. So yes, I'm so glad you're a part of this mission too, because if people could take
hold on
from this, then that alone is just going to change so many women's lives when it comes to that labor and delivery process.
Yeah. There's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff to say.
So do you believe that every woman is able to have that positive birth experience?
That's a really good question too. I think a lot of women have had traumatic birthing experiences, and I don't want to take away from that or say that it wasn't traumatic, because like we said before, every birth is different. From even like my own 2 births were completely different from each other. So I do believe that it's possible for every woman to still have a positive experience, no matter what challenges are in front of them, because of the mindset. It might take a lot of it could take a lot of work. And I've made it sound, I think, kind of flowery, but like these were things that I like put a lot of thought into. It involved some tears trying to figure out what was going to be best for me, but it's worth the work in the end, again, to be able to say that you conquered something and not having to feel like you survived something. So I do think, all that to say, I think it is possible for women to have positive experiences if that's what you want to get out of it. And again, to say, not that doesn't mean that there won't be bumps in the road. It's hard to say what could happen, but to get your mind in a place where you're prepared to handle whatever comes your way, or that you're in a positive mindset, you have the right people with you, and you feel equipped for the experience ahead. I think any woman could have that.
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree with you. It's that idea of knowing, like, it's not going to go to plan.
Yeah.
It might, but it probably won't go exactly as you're envisioning it. So It's the idea of like, I want to equip my mind ahead of time. Mm-hmm. How do I handle when something is like, oh, okay, that's a little bit of a shift. What do we want to do now? So that kind of thing too, where it's like, because mine was all over the board, that whole experience, and it ended up being such a positive experience. But like, I pushed for 4 hours. The baby was sunny side up.
Mine too. My first one,
Yeah, he did not want to come out to save his life, so I ended up having a C-section, and it was totally unplanned. So, and I hadn't even mentally prepared for that, but I was like, in the moment, I'm like, let's do this. Like, I'm ready. Like, whatever we need to do to get this baby here and safe and in my arms, like, let's freaking do it. And so I felt like such a badass at the end of that, where I was like, this did not go to plan at all. And I just proved to myself that I could conquer something that I had been terrified of my whole life, because Hollywood has painted this horrific picture, or culture has painted this horrific picture. And I'm like, what the hell? It wasn't even that bad. Like, that was kind of, like, easier than I thought it was going to be. And maybe because I was like, oh, it's going to be, for a minute was like,
one extreme.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, wow. And it's like, you just choose what is best for you in the moment. Like, if that is getting an epidural, you get that epidural. If that is wanting to do it all natural, you do it all natural. Like, my biggest thing is like, it's your body, it's your baby, it's your choice. Mm-hmm. Like, no matter what. And that's the same with breastfeeding, bottle feeding, formula. Like, a well-fed baby is a loved baby. It doesn't matter if they're getting their nutrients. So yeah, I totally agree with you, where it's just like, it's true. It's a mindset. So no matter what I could have been like, that was so traumatic. I had to push for so long. Baby didn't come out. Baby was upset, all the things, where I'm like, no, like, I proved to myself that when shit hits the fan, like, I can still do it. Like, I can do anything. I felt like I could do anything on the other side of that.
Totally.
It's so empowering. Yeah.
I still feel like that today. People, like, or whatever, like when I got my vaccine, are you ready? It's going to hurt. I'm like, I had 2 babies. I can do it. Whatever.
I know. It's so funny too, because my husband, I went with him to a doctor's appointment. They were going to take blood, and he's like, oh God. And I'm like, well, thank goodness I'm the one who gave the baby. I'm like, we had to do that a lot when I was at those appointments. But people step up, when they need to. Like, he was the one who gave birth, he would have stepped up too,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, cool. So thinking back, so if you could leave us with one piece of advice when you think about labor and delivery, or even motherhood or pregnancy, whatever it might be, what would that be?
That's a really good question too. I just think like you said, it's your body, it's your baby, it's your choice. So it can be really empowering to realize that you're actually the one in control. So whatever is going to make you happy, I say pursue it. Make sure you have a partner in some way that can support you, that will be there with you. But whatever you feel like you need, do it and go after it. And if you don't know what that is yet, I would say take some time to try to figure it out. Because you'll be so glad once you're there and in the heat of the moment and things are happening really quickly. You'll be glad that you have put yourself, your mind in a space to be able to conquer it. So I guess that would be my one piece of advice is take the time to dig deep and decide what you need and go to the people that you need to help you with it and frickin' deliver that baby like a badass, because you are.
I love that. I freaking love that. And I love that idea of like taking that test, the what's your love language?
Mm-hmm.
A really good idea. Like figure out what your love language is before you birth your baby. I love that idea of like, hey, I want to surround myself with love. Like, what does love to me look like?
Yeah.
Is it a push present at the end? Because my words of effort or my love language is gifts. Whatever it is, whatever it's like, that's not mine. But like when I think about it, it's words of affirmation and it's acts of service. So things that where I was like, Brad, I want you to just massage my shoulders or do like a light touch of massage where it just kind of distracts me. Like things like that, where it was like, okay, whatever it might be, if it's touch, if it's whatever, lean into that, because then you're again bringing that oxytocin into your body, and it's just making the entire process that much easier.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, I know several people joined tonight. So do you guys have any questions, like any questions about anything that we shared? And I know this is just kind of our perspective on, our own experiences, but did anyone have any questions about anything that we talked about that you want us to dig into a little bit deeper? We answered all of the questions. We've dug deep ourselves.
I am sorry. I know I hopped in late. It's Danielle. Thank you for, setting this up, Christina. I know, and I really appreciate you coming in with that, what I heard in the last half of this, that just a very positive experience, because and I've been talking to Christina, and a lot of, the stuff I've been going through, like it's been, I've had my ups and downs, and, and it's like, by the time you go through the delivery, and it's like, you have all these obstacles that you're going through, and you're like, good God, how many more obstacles do I have to go through to, like, that seem negative at the time. But then, I hear you, because once, that baby is out, she, he or she, is going to be just like, all of that negativity is just going to go away, and you're just going to be so relieved that that baby is here. And and it's just, it's the scary part, because you're like basically being that person who, like, this baby's life is like in your hands, because it's like in your belly right now, and you're like, what did I do to, what, like, did I go wrong somewhere? Am I hurting my baby? Like, what am I doing? But, once this baby is out, so I just want to say thank you for all that. I don't know what I missed in the beginning. I'm so sorry. I was trying to get off a client call, which so, but everything I heard from the last half of that, like, I really, truly appreciate hearing that. So thank you for sharing that.
You too. I'm glad you connected with it.
I know. I'm so glad you could join. I'm so glad all of you guys could join. I hope that you were able to take at least one thing from this to bring into your own labor and delivery experience. So that was our goal. I truly hope that you guys something resonated with you in that way, where you were like, man, I could use that in my own labor and delivery experience. So thank you guys so much for coming. Jill, thank you so much for sharing your positive birth experiences. I just genuinely so appreciate you spreading the positivity.